What's up, everybody? It is Mike Alexander. Welcome to another episode of Today in Music. We're just listening to Danielle Dax, who is this, honestly, mysterious singer. She did two songs that I was obsessed with like 20 years ago, and then I think promptly disappeared. That's one of them, called Big Hollow Man. Danielle Dax. What's going on? February 28th, Wednesday, last day of February, on the cusp of spring. Let me go through some anniversaries for this date. In 1966, the Cavern Club, the legendary birthplace of the Beatles, finally closed. They'd lost money, oddly enough, for years, and there were like hundreds of Beatle fans there, like trying to protest and like block the construction trucks from tearing it down. It was very nice, but it came down. 1970, we're going to, let's see, Bridge Over Troubled Water, Simon and Garfunkel's Chestnut, became the #1 song in the country, stayed there for, I think, 6 weeks. And a couple of Grammy things. In 1976, Grammy Award for Best Album of the Year, Still Crazy After All These Years, Paul Simon. And what else we got? In 1984, jumping ahead, Album of the Year, Thriller by Michael Jackson, yes. And in 1996, Jagged Little Pill, Alanis Morissette, 22 years ago. That's the thing with these anniversaries and whatnot. It's like you think about like how much time has actually elapsed since some of these things came out, and you're like, wow, where did all those years go? What else do we have? Born on this day. It's not a great selection this today as far as birthdays. So I'll just give you a few. I try to curate all this. It's not like a blanket list of just crap. In 1942, Brian Jones, founding member of the Rolling Stones, was born, and he ended up, that was in 1942. He drowned in a swimming pool in 1969. I think drugs were a cause. 1957, Cindy Williams, one of the bouffant babes from B-52s. And in 1977, a relatively young and spry Jason Aldean was born. So big music news today. Spotify filed to an IPO to go public. And it's a little interesting as far as whether to go in or not, because the company lost $1.5 billion last year. I think the year before that, they had lost like $700 million. They have never made money. It's like, I think they've already paid out $10 billion in royalties to artists. And it's sort of like they're the #1 streaming service. They have twice as many people subscribing that iTunes has. And yet, I don't know, there's a guy named Gene Munster, whom I've heard bandied about on Cody TV, and he was saying today that pretty much music subscriptions are just bad business because it's impossible to make any money. But I did think that was sort of compelling. I mean, Spotify. What else do we have? Oh, new music. I was looking at what albums are coming out the next couple of weeks, and there's some interesting stuff. Joan Baez, who I think I just talked about on Monday's show, is coming out with a new album to coincide, I guess, with her farewell tour. She's decided that she's had enough of the road at age of 77, I think she is. David Byrne has a new album coming out, which I'm very interested in hearing. You never really know what he's going to do, and this is on the sort of cusp of Coachella, where he's appearing, which in and of itself is a little fascinating, because I don't think most of the kids who go to Coachella have ever heard of David Byrne, or certainly are not really greatly familiar with the Talking Heads. So curious about that. And then a couple of real rock and roll bands releasing new music. Judas Priest, Breaking the Law, Breaking the Law. And Stone Temple Pilots, which is kind of exciting. This is Stone Temple Pilots' first album with their new singer. This is actually their third singer. This is with a guy named Jeff Gott. And he came out of, I think, the world of The X Factor. Remember that show? Which was out around for like a season, maybe a season and a half on Fox. He apparently was on that. I don't remember him at all. And I actually ran into the drummer from STP at a party before the holidays, Eric Kratz, and we were talking about the audition process, because, you know, they had Scott Weiland, who died on a tour bus. I believe it was an overdose. Then you had Chester Bennington, who they used after Scott Weiland died, and he was obviously the singer from Linkin Park, and he killed himself last July. So they were on to their third singer in, I think, like 4 years, and they got this guy. Anyway, their new album, it's their first album of new music since 2010. Their last album was called Stone Temple Pilots. This new album is called Stone Temple Pilots, and what's kind of cool is that, he was Eric, when we were talking about this, he was saying that they didn't want to do what Journey did. They didn't want to have some young kid who would make the rest of the band look old by comparison. They didn't want to be shown up by some punk. So they actually looked for someone who was a little bit more age appropriate. Apparently, I have not seen a picture of this guy, but Jeff Gott is it. So I'm guessing he's, at least in his 40s. And they're going to hit the road to support this album later this month. And I was listening to the lead single off the album today, and it's pretty damn good. It's called Roll Me Under. And I'm just going to leave my show today with a little bit of a little sample of that, because it's really, what's fascinating to me is that you probably, if you didn't know, you'd be like, oh, that's Stone Temple Pilots, and have no idea that there was a new singer. Stone Temple Pilots, everybody. Anyway, that's it today in music. Mike Alexander. Hope you guys have an excellent rest of your Wednesday, and I will see you again very soon. Bye-bye.